Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I want to go more in depth on the new Phantom Revenger archetypes revealed from a couple days ago. Basically, all we got was the first artwork of one card, assumedly boss monsters, from three of these brand new archetypes, and they look awesome. It seems like a lot of people are at least really happy with one of these archetypes. I think there'll be a lot to offer from these as far as like appealing to a mass of people. And Konami's been absolutely killing it with deck build packs lately. There's been like two, if not more than that, like absolute bangers in each deck build pack over the last couple of years, which is a good sign. So you can almost bank on some good competitive play out of these. Anyway, let's get into this thing because last time when I reacted to these, I missed a couple details. Kind of hard when you're initial reacting to stuff, but after a little bit of time looking back on it, I think we can go a little more in depth and just talk about what might be going on with some of these archetypes behind the scenes. So let's start out with this first one. This name is Brutal. Oh, also before we jump into that, shout out to you guys. You guys rock. A lot of the comments on the previous video, my initial reaction, really helped me with this video. You guys threw a lot of points out there that you noticed on first look that I didn't, and that those points come up here and some of the stuff we're going to talk about. So shout out to you guys. Keep it coming with the comments. Those they really are awesome, and they help me out with stuff like this. So let's get into it. All right, first archetype. The name's Brutal. I'm going to do my best. Somebody even threw in the comment section how to pronounce it. I think it's Hecatoni Cherie. Hecatoni Cherie, I think is kind of how they pronounced it there, if I'm not mistaken. Closer. That's got to be closer than I threw out before. Anyway, this is a fusion-based monster. At least this monster is. It doesn't guarantee that the rest of the archetype is going to be fusion-based, but this one is. It's a faceless fusion monster whose invisible hands promise your opponent salvation. There's some really cool stuff going on there. Just based on the artwork alone, I'm already looking at zombie, fiend, or fairy, even illusion. Someone threw out there in the comments. That could even be something that maybe Konami messes with. I could see this being fitting in as an illusion monster. They've been doing that more with fusion archetypes. Anything in there, I would say out of those, zombie actually feels the least likely. It's possible because this monster's name, they also say this down below, unseen god Jaza. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but the name Jaza is apparently a story of a woman who married her lover but was found dead the next morning after her wedding, and her husband ran for his life. If that's the scenario, then like maybe it is zombie. Zombie's still applicable as a situation here, but because it also has God in the name, I have a hard time believing they would make a zombie archetype have like a God aesthetic to it and vibe behind it. So I think it's more likely that this is either like a light fiend archetype, which would be really weird. I get it. Oh, but I think more likely Dark Fairy. I think Dark Fairy fits the vibe here, almost even as like fallen angel. It used to be like a woman in love. She passed away and now she's like out for vengeance. She's like a vindictive spirit in the afterlife kind of thing. I think that fits almost more of a fallen angel type vibe to me, and I think Dark Fairy could make sense there. And like I said, illusion. You never know. Illusion's kind of a curveball that could come out of there. Also, we're talking fusion archetype. People have already thrown out that the artwork on this card already looks like branded support. So people are going to throw it out there. Branded, of course, could potentially work here. The Dragon Tail archetype from the last deck build pack could have some good synergy here. You've already seen some other decks, like how Dragon Tail can kind of fuse with any other monster. Kind of has some synergy. So maybe there'll be a way to tie those in there. Invoked is always a thing. The Fright for Patchwork engine is always a thing. If this deck is just maybe has some small holes missing, extra polys, extra bodies to fuse with, that could maybe be something. And then, of course, Dogmatica has good synergy with fusion decks as well. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. Listen, we can't take too much. This is the first reveal, period, and all we know is fusion. But, I still think it's important to acknowledge some of those things. The last thing that I think is really cool about this archetype specifically is this sentence. Not every archetype has this, but sometimes your opponent will, or sometimes your opponent, sometimes Konami will lay down a sentence that I actually feel like you might be able to draw from because it may have an inference on how the archetype works in theme and stuff like that. So this sentence is very interesting to me. This phrase, promise your opponent salvation. No, maybe it's just this is just they're typing out lore. They're kind of trying to build up the cool, theme of this archetype. But I also could see a world where almost in like a Mimigul esque, maybe type mechanic where Mimigul gives your opponent a monster, and somebody who doesn't know what Mimigul does initially may be like, "Oh, cool! They're giving me a body on my field. Hell yeah!" And then they realize pretty soon after that once like that body is not good for them. It's going to get flipped and it is going to do something that hurts them at the end of the day. Well, maybe that's the kind of vibe here where this deck is all about promising your opponent salvation. You kind of dangle the carrot in front of them, you give them something that maybe looks like it's helping them, and then it ends up hurting them way more in the long run. I could easily see that being the case here. All right, so that's kind of everything I had for the first archetype, Hecatoni. I'm trying. I'm trying. All right. Next up, next archetype we have is the Enneacraft one. I'll be honest, this one's my personal favorite, at least on initial drop. And this one's really cool. So this one is a flip monster theme deployed to ascertain the sins of man. That's pretty cool. I like this a lot. I think vibe wise, big machine. I'm already a big Crystron fan, so I like machines. I love flip decks. I love Mimigul. I love Subterror. I love ninjas. Those are three of my all-time favorite archetypes. So this one could maybe join them here. As far as what we're looking at here, it's got to be machines, or at least this monster has machines. We also can't ignore the possibility, and this goes for the archetype above as well and the one below, that just because these artworks are shown as looking machine-ish, looking fairy-ish, looking warrior-ish, that could just be one monster, and the other monsters in the archetype may not look anything like them and may not have the same type, may not have the same attribute. They do that all the time. But if we're only drawing off of these, we have to start somewhere. So this one looks like it's got to be machine. There's maybe a world where it's psychic. I could maybe see psychic being a thing. But as far as type goes, that kind of feels like it's got to be the realm it's dancing in. Could there be Mimigul synergy here? Not insane synergy, but specifically Mimigul Maker is what this archetype maybe makes me really enticed by. When Mimigul Maker came out and I saw that like, oh, it searches any flip monster technically. And then you look through the list of flip monsters that already existed and you were like, oh, yeah, this is kind of just Mimigul right now. Maybe this gives us enough good additions to flip monsters with a new theme that maybe Maker is really playable here. Seems like it's got to be water. Is the whole archetype going to be water based? Because this is like obviously based on a whale. Doesn't have to be. There's a world where this one, it just says ascertain the sins of man. I'm getting the vibe of like these are machines trying to I don't know, do research or hopefully save man from pollution kind of thing. And if this one's diving under to check on like pollution underwater, maybe there's a bird one that like goes up and checks on the ozone layer. Maybe there's a mole looking one that wants to go underground, and that's earth based, right? Wind based for the bird. Maybe there's a one that messes with molten lava type stuff. I don't know, and it's fire based. Maybe they could have a little bit of everything to kind of cover the big four elements. But just based on this one, you have to assume water. We just don't know if all the rest are going to be like that. And then this one too, like this one's maybe a little bit less obvious, but I think like this was kind of cool, like ascertain the sins of man. It is important to say that this is ascertain the sins of man, so it's just finding out what they are, not necessarily correcting them on its own. If it did, like if it was like punish, man for their sins, I could see a world where like this archetype is based on having flip monsters that like maybe they have reactive, like they have an effect while they're face down, almost like trap cards. Let's say if your opponent does something, if they add a card from their deck to their hand, if they special summon a monster, they flip themselves and then do something to punish them. So they're all kind of like set trap cards in that regard, and it's kind of punishing them for their sins, if you will, to kind of, I guess, tie in that line there. I could see something cool like that. I've thought about that for a long time about ways that Konami could try and update flip monsters to make them a little bit better. Another thing, the name of the archetype, Enneacraft. Apparently Ennea, or you'll see it down here, I believe. Let's see. Ennea means 9 in Greek. So this one I would expect to be level 9, or somebody also said, look at this crystal up here. Could this be a crystal alluding to pendulum? Could this be a pendulum flip archetype? I would have thought that they would have put pendulum in this title up here, like a pendulum flip monster that does stuff. So maybe it's not, maybe that crystal's just totally unrelated, but that crystal kind of looks like the crystals for pendulum mechanics. And Ennea means 9, so it could mean scale 9 or just level 9. You never know. Level 9 being interesting for stuff like generator. Who knows? For some synergy there, but yeah. And then lastly, no, I think that's everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. Just with yeah, covering like the pendulum stuff. Also, somebody said that looks like there's a good amount of space in the bottom of the artwork here, and that this picture, it looks pretty square to me, but sometimes the pendulum artworks can be longer than squares. They can be like longer rectangles, but it looks okay to me, I think. So yeah, I would leave that one alone for now. We'll keep it in mind. It could, but until we see it, it would just kind of put it in our back pocket. And lastly, we move to our final artwork here, our final archetype. This is Killertune. Cool new theme. This one I have the least, I feel like I have the least to go on as far as like what's going on here entirely. I love the artwork. I think the monster looks cool. I mentioned in my initial reaction that I'm already getting like early Gachiakuta vibes, a new anime that's about to air next season that I'm very excited for. I think a lot of people are. It's definitely giving that vibe, this like cyberpunk, clearly a DJ, right? They even say like, let's see, what's the sentence they throw out here? A synchro tuner to make some killer noise on the floor with its wild scratches. So clearly looking in that DJ direction. I guess I don't even know if this is a dude or a lady, but with the claw trying to scratch, I don't know. I don't even know what we're looking at here, but it's cool. I, based on the artwork, based on this artwork, and again, this is one of the boss monsters, so it's possible the other ones aren't anthropomorphic. It's possible the other ones are just straight machines or whatever. I'm looking at warrior and machine. That seems to be the most obvious route here. Sorry if it's boring, but I really don't know what else would be here to be the type for these types of monsters. So just something to keep in mind. And other than that, it's like there's not too much to go over. It is important that they say specifically this is a synchro tuner. So this is clearly a synchro archetype that's probably going to try and synchro climb. That's kind of a kind of by default the way the deck's going to want to work, because there are archetypes that are synchro based, but it doesn't really climb through multiple synchros. You just make good synchros and go from there. Whereas other archetypes, when they have synchro tuners, they're a tuner for a reason, because they want to climb into something bigger. And so I would guess this is a synchro archetype that wants to climb. I don't know how that factors in with DJs. I don't know enough about DJs to know how like maybe the idea of a DJ themed archetype could tie into the play style and the way that the mechanics work in the deck. But maybe somebody who knows more about them could maybe throw out some cool ideas down in the comments. But still a cool one nonetheless. Really cool. Really, I'm excited for all three. I could find myself liking any of these three so far. A lot of times we see a first archetype like Ryuge. I saw the artwork for Ryuge without even finding out it was like a bad archetype. I was like, nah, not for me. And luckily that was the one bad one in that in 2 deck build packs ago. But I look at all three, at least the first artwork, and I'm like, you know what? Depending on how they go, I could like any of these three. I could like all three. I'm excited for them. So it's cool stuff. If there are any other details that you guys feel like might have been maybe missed looking at some of these archetypes, throw them down in the comment section down below. If there's anything else that you think might be interesting as far as where these archetypes could end up going, I'd love to see that down in the comments. But I'm out of here. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching as always, guys. Subscribe to the channel for more fun videos like this one down the line, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.